Well, welcome to No Expectations. It's been a while. I think we'll call this season 2. What do you think?
Yeah.
Season 2? I don't
Season
know.
2.
We haven't really been keeping track.
Yeah.
I really want to talk about burnout today.
Oh.
Burnout in work, burnout in relationships, in your spiritual journey. And I think we probably need to figure out how to identify it in our lives. Are we really indeed burned out? Or are we just tired? And then maybe talk about ways to mitigate burnout or manage it a little bit better.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Finding balance and calm in this chaotic season that is spring.
Does burnout only happen in spring?
No, but I mean, it feels like it happens more to me in spring.
It's all about you.
It is about me.
So enough about no expectations. Let's get back to Jen.
Back to me and my burnout. I would like to talk about my burnout, Andrew.
All right, let's talk about burnout. Let's just jump right into it. You're listening to the podcast No Expectations, where we discuss all things spiritual. My name's Andrew, a lifelong Zen bodhisattva, recovering yogi, yoga instructor, and author. And I'm here with my friend and student, Jen.
I'm a busy mom, a cyclist. I love to spend time in nature and on my mountain bike, and a yogi. I've been asking myself bigger questions about being on a spiritual path, and I've been asking Andrew a lot of bigger questions about this journey, and we invite you to join us on it. Maybe we'll make you laugh, maybe we won't. No expectations. Burnout, overwhelmed, drained, physical and mental exhaustion.
Yeah. I know that I've been there many times in my life. Burnout, as a professional, as a teacher, as a just general human being going through life. Mm-hmm. And you feel like you're stuck sometimes, right? It's like...
Can't get off the wheel.
Your sleep starts to take a hit. You start to just feel like you're overwhelmed all the time. You feel like you're not making any headway with stuff. Mm-hmm. And it starts to take its physical toll. Right?
Yeah.
Because we start to create really bad habits when we're in stressed out ways.
Yeah.
And that just becomes the wheel starts to spin faster and louder, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And we get caught there, and it becomes difficult. Tell me about burnout for you as a mother.
Oh, as a mom. So spring, I'll say spring because that's the season we're in now. Spring is when all the sports start back. And, we have games on the weekends and practices, and I have to feed them several times a day. I have to. Those
troublesome humans that need to be fed.
They have to be fed.
They got a lot of nerve.
All day long, some of them. Just the constant need to, not need, but laundry, the simple things that, keep the household going, but the desire to, am I filling their time the right way? It's a mental exhaustion too. Should I sign them up for a club sport? Should they be getting private lessons for this? Am I doing enough for their school? Am I teaching them balance? Am I keeping them busy enough, but not too much? And as a mom or as a dad, a parent, that cycle just goes on in our heads all day long.
Do you
with
ever
our kids.
Pause to think that maybe you're burning out your children?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I was having a conversation on the sidelines for our lacrosse team recently, and all the parents are kind of the same way. Our kids are young enough. Do we want to go after this more competitive playing opportunity for them, or do we want to give them a little bit more time? But you can see it's hard because the kids they love the sport and they want to grow and they want to play. This is now their community of friends, and they want to just, I don't know. It's.
But aren't you sometimes just accelerating that? So my experience is.
You played club ball, right?
I played all the way through college.
Yeah.
So from 8 years old until 20-something years old, I played ball competitively. Mm-hmm. And, it's changed dramatically from when I was playing. It's much more intense now. But I remember I got to be in high school and I was like, I'm done. I was so burned out after playing for just 8 years at that point, but playing so often, practicing so often, I realized that there was other things in my life that I wanted to pursue, like, being creative or being with my friends. And I think, we start to develop this idea that we have to be busy all the time. And, do we just accelerate that by like immersing ourselves in something so deeply that we get to the point where there's nothing left in us. There's no more pleasure in it.
Yeah, now it's work. Yeah. I mean, on top of, that, we also have the things that we want to do as a mom, as a woman, as a friend, as a wife. There are all these activities I'd like to fill with all my free time. And it's just really hard to balance rest with all of those.
So we're talking kind of pleasurable type things like playing a sport, and at this point it's not a full-time job where it pays you money or your children money, but what about as people who are in the working world who don't really have a choice to, it's not an option. They have to work to pay the bills, and you find burnout real quick there too.
Pressures and stress of working.
I remember early on when I started working, I would be on the road a lot. And as much as I enjoyed traveling, the first two things that took a hit were the quality of food that I would eat and my quality of sleep. Yeah. And it was a rapid downhill from there. I instantly knew, like, within a very short period of time, that if I don't sort out this whole eat and sleep thing, this is...
not manageable.
There's an unhappy Andrew. And no one likes an unhappy Andrew. No one even likes a happy Andrew, but much less an unhappy Andrew. So that's a real challenge. And I think after coming out of COVID, or as we continue to wander in COVID now, it's still a lot of people still working from home and struggling. Like, burnout's even more pronounced now, right? Because they're managing a home, a family, and a job all in the same space. Yeah. So at least before, you could kind of disconnect from those children that constantly needed to be fed, those worrisome little boogers. Always wanted to be fed. You could at least step away from that for a little while, right? Yeah. But now you don't have that. A lot of people don't have that opportunity.
I see as my peers, as they're going back into the office, my husband, they're going back into the office post-COVID. Expectations have changed a lot, and employees too. And they're so conditioned to, like, you were working at home, you wake up at 7 a.m. and you could be available till 7 p.m. or longer. Right. And there's still that expectation. And I've seen a lot of people trying to scale back, and
that's tough. It takes a lot of work. Scale back. Even if you wanted to scale back, your employer sometimes is not as forgiving, as open to the scaling back. So we've talked about the symptoms or the signs of burnout. It's like no motivation. Sometimes you become, so sleep deprived, you become an insomniac. You emotionally overwhelmed.
I added physical ailments. Your immune, your immune function is impacted. Your gastro, mental. Yeah. All of those things are connected, and when you have low energy and you don't have time to eat a healthy meal, you're putting junk in your body. Right. It's just
It's a recipe. It's a bad recipe. Yeah. Right. And then from an emotional standpoint, it becomes difficult. We can't be as mindful as we were because we're easily emotionally triggered because we're stressed out, and we can't manage all of this at the same time. So, I think it's great that we recognize these signs and then see if we can kind of find some mindful ways to manage them. Yeah. One of the first ones I always think of is disconnecting. And we've talked about that many times on our episodes. is, when I'm creative or when I'm working on something, it's a hard turn off the device. Like, draw a line in the sand, turn off your phone, whatever that is, for an extended period of time. And like I've said, it is so liberating just to hit that power button and watch that phone just blink off. And then I feel like I've just taken a piano off my back.
Yeah.
And I understand you can't do that all the time, but I think there are times that you can schedule that as a busy professional or whatever throughout your day. Or you could say if you have an employer that's being difficult and saying, hey, or they're pinging you after hours, you don't respond, or you just turn the device off.
Yeah.
And disconnect, right?
Just disconnect.
Get away from it.
If you can't afford to do that every night, like set one night a week. For me, when you sent me this message when we were talking about the topic for this week and you suggested burnout, my first response was, oh my God, Andrew's in my head. I'm looking over my shoulder. Is he watching me on the treadmill right now thinking about being burnt out? But I embraced it because I think I was on the treadmill when I got that message, and I was back in the gym at my workout routine after taking 2 weeks off. They were unplanned from the gym. Things were just so chaotic that my fitness, my physical health kind of took a back seat. So that was something that, I, as a treatment for burnout for me, was like, get back into your physical movement routine, whatever that looks like.
Right. Because there's some, feel good stuff in there too, right? There's that endorphins that get released into the system and it makes you feel good. But you have to make that concerted effort. And I've shared that story here before about a young woman that was coming to class and she was on her phone the whole time.
Just could not.
And for 60 minutes. And after class, I went and talked to her. I was like, what's going on? She's like, oh, I'm really busy with work. And I was like, if you can't turn your phone off for 60 minutes, then you're really doing yourself a disservice. And she was like, well, I'm young. I'm trying to be. I'm like, yeah, but you're setting the stage for how you want to be treated, if that's what you allow yourself to do, and how you're treating yourself. So you give yourself that opportunity, turn the thing off, put it aside, be liberated from it for a bit instead of being a slave to it.
Yeah, sure. I see burnout. We talk about these symptoms, the low energy and short fuses and sleep issues and, diet and how we're fueling our bodies. It is almost like a warning sign that if we don't do something differently, our body, our mind, the universe is going to force us to a hard stop.
That's what I was about to say. So, you have to listen to your body because your body will, if you're not listening, your body will make the call.
And these symptoms are like flashing at you like, slow down.
And your body will give you a hard stop and will treat you in ways that you're not prepared for.
Yeah.
So really take the time and listen to your body. What's it doing? Think about, how you use the bathroom and those types. I know that sounds crass, but really it's important to understand what's going on inside because if you're not using the bathroom frequently, you're probably not drinking enough water, you're not eating right, you're too stressed out to even process,
Go eat a veggie right now. Like, just go shove a carrot. I know you have some baby carrots in your fridge. They're going to go to waste. Just go. That was one of my thoughts too, is just I realized thinking about this podcast and what we're going to talk about is I was like, when did I eat a veggie last? Just being on the go, like I'm eating processed snack foods all day long just to kind of sustain me for the next hour. And, since making those little changes in my life just in the past couple of days, the energy comes back, the bathroom issues, regulate themselves. And
yeah, I think it's important because it's one of those things too, is particularly when you're tired, you don't want to exercise, but it's required, right? So it's like, I'm too tired to exercise. But if you do, you have this, if you don't exercise, you don't get a quality sleep. So go ahead and give yourself the opportunity to do some exercises so you can sleep better at night. That's important.
If we're talking about helping in the terms of treatment for burnout, I think if you're feeling this way, I would encourage you to stay away from alcohol or substances.
Yeah, that's
just for the like if not for a long time, for this moment.
That's a great point. I mean, when we get to those places where it's just like it's not working and not sleeping well at night, we'll reach for something, maybe a glass of wine or an edible, or something to help us, maybe some supplement,
Yeah.
and then it might help us 1 or 2 nights, and then the next day we wake up and drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee because we're so tired. We need to get through the day, and it becomes another cycle. So just put yourself on a different frequency.
Yeah.
Doing something. So if you can help regulate that without adding any substances to the system.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think after that, it's like thinking about being vigilant to your routine, which is one of the first episodes we ever created, was talking about developing a routine.
Yeah.
And sticking to that routine, and whatever that is for you. And maybe when you get to those places where you're noticing this burnout and all of the negative symptoms that it's providing, and you feel like, I've really got to jump back into my routine, and you feel that you're not being successful, then change the metric a bit, pull it down. Mm-hmm. Do you really need to sit for 30 minutes in a meditation? Do you need to go to 8 yoga classes in a week? Do you need to do all of this? No. Start back.
Small. Start again. Yeah. Small.
Start again from the top. Think about the things that you need right now in this moment, and not what you were doing before, because you're not that person, right? You've gone through a transformation.
You're more aware of the symptoms and
right. Yeah. And I think that's the thing too, is we were talking about before we started, was like you can get burned out in spirituality too.
Yeah.
The spiritual journey can be exhausting.
It's exhausting, like looking at yourself as everyone around you and everything in you, and like feeling a connection.
When you start to see the interconnectedness of all things all the time, you're like, it becomes, it's like, overstimulated, and you're just like, oh, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
And then my experience in the past was, if I wasn't mindful in an opportunity and I said something or behaved, and I would be really hard on myself. I'm like, well, you're supposed to be you're supposed to be better than this. You're supposed to be above this. And then like, how could you say that?
How could you be so human right now?
And I was like, so that was one of the things when I started to really get deep into my spiritual practice, was notice all of this in the fatigue that it brought with me. And as a teacher, it became even more pronounced, because not only was I dealing with my own spiritual journey, I was starting to have to deal with other people's spiritual journey, and helping them with their interpretation, and the energy that required. And it was difficult.
Yeah, you had to compartmentalize.
Yeah, I had to build some guardrails for myself, and I think that's important too, because as we talk about it, and those of you who listen are going on your spiritual journey, you're going to find that people are attracted to that energy that you're creating, right?
Yeah. And
by no means, but most likely by no one's intention, they're attracted to you and they want to know more. They want to be around that energy, your energy, because it feels good.
Yeah.
And in doing so, they sometimes
take it.
Try
to
absorb. Energy vampires.
Energy vampires.
It's because it feels so good.
Yeah.
And so you have to be careful about how much you give away of yourself. And I've had to learn that as a teacher more times than I care to admit. I have to stop. Don't be so accessible all the time.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to talk to 30 people after class and hear everyone's story. There's some days you can just walk out of the room.
Yeah.
Right? And so the spiritual journey and burnout is real too. What other points about, what other self-care techniques do you use with your burnouts?
So for me, I think it is so important. So I'm a very good sleeper normally, and for me, that symptom of burnout is I was awake from 1:30 until 5 a.m. the other night, and it reminded me that my mindfulness ritual needed to be like reassessed.
Right.
And sure, I'm fitting it in, but maybe I'm not as, I haven't been as committed to the same, time of every day and place. So it was important for me to go back and sit in my meditation space and have hold a mirror up and say, are you causing a lot of this burnout? Mm-hmm. Of course I am. And is it my ability or inability to say no, or my desire to please and fill buckets in my family? And yeah, it takes, for me, getting back to a mindfulness ritual, like always coming back to it.
I don't know about you, but there's some people who come to me like they feel really upset that they've fallen off the wagon, if you will, right?
The spiritual journey wagon.
Yeah. And
no one falls off of it.
And so that's okay. It's okay to come off the path for a little bit, as long as you recognize you came off the path and realize that you can come back on.
Yeah. I call them speed bumps. We're not taking a detour. It's a little speed bump.
I think you're on the road and your attention's distracted and you're looking at something and you kind of well, you didn't really miss the turn, but you're on the highway and you hear that like, oh, I need to put it back on the road. So I think that's important. It's okay to kind of look away for a minute, but you can't look away too far because you end up in the ditch.
Yeah, you've being on the spiritual journey and recognizing how much work it took to get here and it takes to stay here is like you can't go back to sleep after jumping on it. After
you've opened your eyes and seen, as difficult it is to see the interconnectedness of all things, it is beautiful.
It is so beautiful,
and it's well worth it. We probably could talk for a long time about burnout. There's a great blog post on our website, noexpectations.me, that discusses burnout and the signs and some of the things that we discussed in this episode. I invite you to go take a look at that as many times as you need to and revisit that. And don't let all of these external things in your life overtake your life.
No.
I think it's in that post or in one of the other posts that we've have up there. Franz Kafka said it best: if it's between you and the world comes second.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. Yeah. Take care of yourself.
Find your way back to calm. So, Andrew, for our thought for the day, I'm thinking, could our ego be causing our burnout?
It most certainly could. As you and I have discussed personally, I think that the face of the ego is fear, anger, control, and entitlement. And if those things are driving our decisions, then sometimes we don't want to ask for help. So, maybe we're burning ourselves out because we just simply are taking on too much, and where we could probably ask for someone to help us or look for a way to
delegate.
That's a simple thing, but it's a hard thing to do, right? When your ego's driving the bus.
Yeah, I can do it better. I can do it faster.
I can do it better. I can do it faster. Yeah, I mean, it's like it'd be less confusing if I did it. Oh, look at me. I'm the center of the universe.
You are not the center of the universe.
Don't be using my material.
Stop acting like it. This was a quote unquote by Andrew.
So, fear that if we let go, give up control of something, that somebody will do it better than we do, or they would look like a failure. We're angered in the fact that we don't have control of the situation. We're angered that we have to do something maybe we don't want to do. So the ego's reacts to that. And this idea of control, which you and I have had multiple conversations about, really, what in this world are you really in full control over?
Not much.
Not a whole bunch.
Not a lot.
And then entitlement. just because you exist doesn't mean you're entitled to anything. Just because you busted your butt on that one project, or you did this, or you took the kids to school today and you think that your husband should do it because it's some sort of weird, unwritten rule.
A ballot, yeah.
So, the ego can get in the way. And really be just more fuel to the fire that causes the burnout.
That physical and mental exhaustion of this
Yeah, like I've got to do it all. If I'm not doing it all, then it's not gonna work. You don't have to be the martyr. You can lay it down.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's so hard. But the freedom of just being able to show up without expectations.
So in your own life, let's say if you're underwater and you ask your husband, you say, "Hey, can you help me out with this?" In the past, how would that work?
Yeah, of course.
So he does it. Did you ridicule him if he does it wrong?
No.
Yeah, have you ever done it?
Maybe old me. Shut up if you're listening, Blake. But yeah, I mean, there was a time when
I'm here for you, Blake, because I've lived in relationships like that, where it's like you ask for help and then you take it on the chin because you did it, quote unquote, wrong.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, is your ego causing my burnout? No, I think we're all guilty of it, where it's hard to let go. Like, you want help. You're feeling the burnout. You want the help, but that ego tells you they're not going to do it the way that I would do it.
No, well, your ego says, I don't need it. I really don't need it. I can do this.
I can do it on my own. I can do it until I can't.
Right, until I fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's important. Think about what's really driving the burnout too. We talked about a lot of signs and symptoms and management techniques, but is a lot of the burnout caused by you in the way you're seeing things, and your inability to say, "Hey, I need some help."
Yeah.
And seeking that help, in whatever form that arrives.
And receiving it. Yeah. Just receiving the help.
Without judgment too. Yeah. Just being like, and just being grateful. So go back to listen to the great gratitude episode, right? Just being, okay, so you asked him to do it. He didn't do it great, whatever that is, that person in your life. Yeah. You still say, thanks, I appreciate you for taking that off my plate.
Right.
Next time do it right.
Could you do it like this? May I suggest?
So, think about the face of your ego and next time, and what parts of that are driving this and just creating more stress and suffering in your life, and just say, let it go.
Yeah, just let it go. I'd like to talk about ego maybe in a future podcast.
Let's do it.
All right.
I love talking about the ego.
Ego. Thanks for listening to No Expectations, the podcast. We invite you to come join us and carry on the conversation at noexpectations.me, our new website, where we will be posting blog posts. We will link all of our episodes there, and you can follow us on our social media sites through the website.